minutes or not, like 7 minutes. I was talking for a whole 7 minutes with the audio muted. I've restarted the stream so I can get the cutoff point of the upload here. But let me just recap what I was talking about. Okay, so first things first. First things first. We have a Magma Studio link for people to participate in drawing in the drawing space here this evening. I would encourage people to use that. If you run out of drawing space, have your own digital art app handy so you can draw, but I'll try to provide extra drawing space. Try not to draw too big on the page. Even if you get like a little pixelated when you zoom in, just try drawing smaller. Because we're going to be doing like very, very simple kind of, well, not that small. Let me see if I can zoom out to a good ratio here. But I'll make multiple instances of the file. Here, let me do this. 1, 2. So this is going to be number 2, invite link number 2. If you run out of space there, invite 2 is going to be in the Discord, and invite 3 is in the Discord. I'm going to delete my little thing I just scribbled on the first one now. I'll be able to jump between the different instances of the file, but here I'm going to delete or erase the thing I just did on this file. Delete my layer there. So I'm going to be on file number 3. But here they are in the Discord right here. There's number 1 right here. Invite 1. Invite 2, invite 3. If we need more, just let me know. But it should be around, like, try to keep it around 4 to 6 people per page. And if we need more, just let me know. Also, if you're in the Discord voice, feel free to ask questions and speak up. I'll let you guys know if we need to be particularly quiet for a segment or something. But today should be pretty free. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be studying head drawing from Katsushiro Otomo, and also from, maybe we'll probably might get some photo reference, but also we're going to be looking mainly at like, well, I got the Sketchfab collection right here of 3D model reference that I'm going to link in Twitch. I'm also link it in Discord, so you guys can use this too. What we're going to do is we're going to use an interval timer to time ourselves, taking like taking some of these different 3D model heads. Mainly we're going to be using the Loomis head ones to start with, but we'll probably use some other ones too. And what we're going to do is we take the 3D model and we just spin it, or we just like spin it around to a random angle. So here, what the hell was it? There we go. I'm gonna have to like fiddle with this a bit. There we go. Now I can freely move it a bit more. But like every time the timer counts down, we just spin it around to a different angle or something. A good thing to do is actually like try to get something that's like an like we're probably gonna just change to a different image here, and then I'll try to turn the head to something that's close to an approximation of the head up there. So the basic structure that we're going to be using of the Andrew Loomis head, I'm going to show you how to do it real quick. So follow along here, and then we'll do a warm-up set. So I'm just going to make sure that this is going to work. Okay. Actually, I better do this on my app here. So first things first, when you start with Loomis head, we're going to be starting with a profile right here to show you how like the basic structure works. Profile is usually the best one to start with when you're learning this. You just start with a circle. Then you get like a circle that's about like 2/3 the size of the original circle. Somewhere, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just somewhere in there, somewhere around 2/3 the size of the original circle. Now I want you. Then you want to create kind of like this crash test dummy crisscross going across it like this. And what these are, that line there is the brow line. This line right here is the line that goes to the top of the head, and this is also the this is also roughly about where the jaw is. The jaw hinges. This is also where about where the top of the ear is usually, right here on this horizontal line here. So the next thing that you do, after you've done this little kind of setup, you find the top of the head here. Like, you keep in mind that this line is curving over the top of this sphere here. And you drop another line down like this. And for the side of the jaw. Oh, actually, no. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll do another line like this, diagonally across the face. And that creates a this is like the turning point at the front of the skull, like the hairline. We call it the hairline usually, but it's like, let's say like you got a human skull that's like this. Like this little the human skull is actually kind of like this cranial mass is kind of like, it's kind of like this weird football shape that holds the brain. So this point right here where the angle of the head changes is what that marker is there for, basically. So then, knowing this, you now have, like, between this and this line, you have your first rule of thirds measurement for measuring out some of the landmark features of the face. From the hairline here to the brow line here, you measure out another third, roughly the same size. Now you have the bottom of the nose, and you measure out another third. Now you have the bottom of the chin. And now you have, now you can make these lovely little C-curve lines for the front of the face. Like, I'm not following exactly the model that's up here. This is kind of like just getting me in the ballpark of how this works. But this is this little C-curve line for the front of the face here down to the chin. Add a little space there. The chin there, and let's see. Oh yeah, you can use the back of the head here to find roughly about the angle of the jaw, like that. I think it's like, yeah, it's like that. So then you can, you don't need to add in additional features, like if you're just doing Loomis head practice, but this is how the features fit in usually, like the nose, bottom of the nose, somewhere around here. The brow is about here. The eyes are actually like, you take the very top of the head, take the very bottom of the jaw. The eyes, the eye line is roughly about halfway. Remember, this is the brow line right here. This is the eye line right here, the halfway line. So your eyes and your eye sockets are going to be about here-ish. Actually, I think the jaw is supposed to be about like this. I don't know. I think it's good like this. That's fine. And so you can see there's this rhythm line right here. This one is, that's actually a line that's normally associated with Riley method. So that isn't really necessary to add to a Loomis head, but including it is kind of helpful, I think. But yeah, your basic structure of a Loomis head is essentially like you take a sphere, you chop off the sides of the sphere with like this. You have like center line and stuff, and you measure the brow line with those little crash test dummy patterns on the side. You can find the jaw line with those things. Those turn inward a bit from this angle. I've done these so many times that I can kind of extrapolate and like visualize this stuff. But yeah, like doing this one from 3/4 angle, if you want to find your proportions, you just like you take what I did there with that measurement thing right there, and you just spin it three-dimensionally. Like you see I'm doing like the diagonal line cutting across the head sphere to find that hairline. And then I can extrapolate out from that three-dimensionally, you see, to find my first third. And then I can extrapolate the rest of that. But I've done these enough that I can kind of eyeball it when I'm sketching. So there's your basic Loomis head. That's the main thing I want people practicing this evening, especially if you're new. Here's one from the front. So the sides get chopped off, as you'd expect. The jaw gets actually angled inward on the sides of the face. Corner of the jaw about there, I want to say. I'm guesstimating that one, by the way. But it's the same thing again. This is the brow line right here. This is you can kind of extrapolate the hairline. The hairline's probably about here. Nose is probably gonna be about somewhere here. And of course I jumped ahead of myself and I did the chin. So the proportion isn't quite accurate, but you get the idea of how you construct it from the front. So basically you just practice this thing relentlessly and you just practice it freely. You can experiment with adding features to it. I want people to get free with using it and spinning it around. If you have trouble like trying to figure out generally how it works and stuff, you can use a tool like this to kind of spin this around. Like one of the things that you might struggle with when you're initially doing these is like, how does a sphere look when the side's chopped off at certain angles? So this tool can be really handy for that. The main point of doing this is to start just like freely using tools like these to get you in the ballpark for your head construction. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, especially if you're just sketching. But we're going to be doing some interval timer stuff very shortly. So I'll put on an interval timer for us. We'll be spinning around the head from different angles and doing different versions of it. There is also another tool that if you guys already know how to use it, I'm going to encourage people who already know about it. But the Becker wedge, I would encourage people who know what that is from other classes they've attended with me to use it. It's essentially this little thing right here. You can actually use it as a substitute for getting a full Loomis head in, by the way. You can just establish the whole face with this little thing. Because it has like the angle of the face embedded into it. But anyone who knows what the Becker wedge is, I would encourage you to use that. I've been using like a super simplified version of it for my shorthand lately, which is this little guy right here. See that little kind of triangle pose thing? That's essentially like, that could be a brow line or an eye line, really depending. But it's the same kind of thing. Like I can extrapolate the information of a Loomis head onto this. and like construct a character head using this. Sometimes I have to make little adjustments because it is a shorthand thing. This is like a head that I might use if I'm like drawing a storyboard or rough animation in very quickly, where I just want to like establish a strong head direction, like head directional, clear head direction. There's that little kind of triangular thing right here. You instantly know what direction this character is facing, basically, in a very simple way. I did a bunch of these as part of my warm-ups. You can see what I'm talking about. You know that like you're looking at the top of this guy's head from how the thing is curved. You know, you're looking at the underside of this guy's head from how it's curved there. I'm going to talk about some other things with head drawing too later, but I think to start off, the Loomis procedure will be what we'll focus on. And I think, and I'll try not to overwhelm people with too much information tonight, but we might dip into some other things too. So I'm going to start an interval timer, and we'll get started on a drawing set. Everyone get ready, get your pencils ready, class. So, actually, let me see. I have an interval timer set up with YouTube that I can use, but I want to see if either Alexa or Google, hang on, Alexa, stop. Alexa, set an interval timer for 1 minute. For
interval timer, 1 minute, starting now. Next time you ask for
Alexa, stop timer. Okay, cool.
Interval timer canceled.
Okay. Okay, Google, set an interval timer for 20 minutes for 2 minutes each.
2 minutes, and we're starting now.
Okay, Google can't do it. Okay, Google, stop timer.
No problem, I canceled it.
Okay, let's try this. Alexa, start a 20-minute interval timer for 1 minute.
20-minute interval timer, 1 minute, starting now.
Hopefully that'll work. Alexa, cancel timer.
20-minute interval timer canceled.
Alexa, start a 20-minute interval timer for 2 minutes.
20-minute interval timer, 2 minutes, starting now.
Here we go. Hopefully this will work. We'll find out if after the first 2 minutes. So get yourself started right now. We'll start on this kind of straight on view of Kaneda here. And I'm going to put on some stream beats. Also, I want to encourage people to speak up and ask questions, and also even banter. Tell us about your day or other cool shit you're seeing. If I need people to quiet down for going over some class information, I'll let you know, but people should feel free to talk and speak up right now.
Did you see that Daft Punk retired today?
Yes, I did.
It's a sad day. I was hoping they're going to do one more world tour so I can actually see them live.
So it goes. So it's the end of their era, but that doesn't mean that they're stopping as artists. I hope they left on good terms. It's like, you know, we had a good creative run. Maybe it's kind of time to separate. We've been together for so long. I hope they left like on good terms. Like, you know how like when the Beatles broke up, the Beatles were still really close friends. In fact, like breaking up the band saved their friendships. Because they weren't at each other's throats creatively anymore. So I'm going to be doing a combination of like some of the Loomis head stuff and bits and pieces of some other things. I'm doing these. Like you can see me doing this kind of raccoon eyes thing. Sort of block in the front area of the face and kind of get like some 3D masses going. I'm not strictly Oh, all right, next pose.
Your 20-minute interval timer is done.
Fucking.
Your 20-minute interval timer is done.
Alexa, stop. Okay, Google, set timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, and we're starting now.
me just put this. I should put this on. Oh, yeah, I should put this on TV focus, shouldn't I? Or TV only might work better for this. Whoops.
Spacedad, is there any
Whoops,
way to
Cincy.
boost the size of the reference window?
Yeah, there. Sorry. I kind of messed up there. Sorry, I forgot to switch it over. I'm kind of discombobulated with technical stuff today for some reason. Like I messed up on the mic stuff earlier. I did come back from a rest period. I played a lot of Valheim. So I'm drawing this not quite at the exact... It's okay if you don't get it perfect. Or draw quite at the exact angle, as long as you understand what you're drawing. Like in my case, I didn't draw this perfectly at the angle that it is right there, but I understand the angle that I am drawing it at. So let's see, I'm going to think about some things here. I'm kind of glancing back and forth between like Atomo's head drawing stuff here, because this is a nice sheet, or the production artist who made the sheet based on Atomo's artwork. Kind of glancing back and forth between this because this is kind of giving me some hints about how to play with sculpting a face using a Loomis head as a starting point. Okay, Google, set timer 2 minutes.
Done. 2 minutes added to your 2-minute timer.
Okay, Google, set timer for 16 minutes.
Second timer for 16 minutes. Starting now.
Actually, no. Alexa, set a timer for 16 minutes. Alexa, set a timer for 16 minutes.
16 minutes. Starting now.
Sorry, I didn't spin this. I'm going to spin this. Yeah, let's see, let's give it like a nice overhead view here. So I think I'll do a tag team situation here until I figure out how to do an interval timer with the digital assistants. I do have a YouTube interval timer I can also use, but I prefer not to. But I can set Alexa for the main timer, and then I can use Google for the 2-minute timer. So that face wedge I was talking about, you can see how it would come into play here a little bit. See if I can do a quick demonstration of that. But basically the face wedge is, you got this line right here that's kind of like the eye line right there. And you got this for like the brow. If it's a cartoony character, that brow is going to be very, very flexible. Then you can kind of use like this sort of center line, sort of over the 3D form right here. Okay, Google, set timer 2 minutes.
Done. 2 minutes added to your 2-minute timer.
Yeah, that'll work. So let's spin the angle now. Spin. Oops. So you can see there's like kind of a Muppet mouth. Like you put some Muppet eyes there. And a Muppet tongue inside there. And that's how that works basically. But inside this space is where like the eyes would bulge for like the eye sockets and stuff. Kinda. And there's enough information in there to kind of extrapolate what angle the head is at. Like from this, it kind of looks like the head is at an up angle a bit. Extreme up angle to me. But this is like the Ethan Becker. Ethan Becker has a video on this, basically. I'm doing this really badly, but you get the idea of it. Let's do a quick drawing of this head that's on screen right now. So what's cool is that crash test dummy sort of thing on the side of the face. That thing is really, really helpful for acting as kind of a GPS system for the angle of the head and stuff. Anyway, I'm talking now, but like I said, anyone can speak up and interject with whatever. What have people been up to lately? Okay, Google, set timer for 2 minutes.
Done. 2 minutes added to your 2-minute timer.
So let's get like more like kind of maybe like straight on 3/4-ish.
Are there like any specific rules for how you convey the extreme angles like that?
Depends. Like some there's some specific rules for the cheats. I'd need you to like show me some of what you're struggling with regarding that.
So like in the previous one, trying to get the eyeline correct and make it communicate that it is coming from the below angle. Like how you would properly illustrate that in terms of setting it up.
Well, you kind of have to like wrap your head around the fact that you're looking up at into something. So like let's so you have to think about it three-dimensionally. Like say like you're looking at like that face wedge I just did straight on, it's gonna look something like this. But then if you're looking at it from the underside, the bottom end is gonna get smaller. You're gonna see more of the top extruding. You're gonna see more of like the top extruding out, kind of. Well, hang on, I give something about the same length here actually. So the bottom end is gonna get smaller. The top end is gonna get a lot larger. Because it's like kind of an overhang on the face a little bit. Not quite like this, because the brow doesn't go out that far. But so this is kind of exaggerated, but it's sort of the same idea, really. So I get the nose that's a little bit closer to straight on, and then like it's looking down. Get like to the point that the brow almost vanishes into the face. Okay, Google, set timer for 2 minutes.
Done. 2 minutes added to your timer.
Let's do another low angle like here. I mean, it just comes down to kind of understanding how like 3D form works. The other thing is that this is like happening at a funky angle here. So how this looks is gonna like look severely different at this angle versus this angle. Because this is a funky shape. And the best way to practice, one of the best ways to practice that is to do draw over studies, which we'll probably get to some of that tonight. Some of these. I need to warm up with using it again myself. I haven't used it in a while, but like bits and pieces of it have been like, I've been doing an uber simplified version of in my stuff lately. Like the that thing right there. There it is. This is not a wedge. This is just a triangle on this flat triangle on the surface of the face. But there's enough there for me to kind of work with to sort of start carving into the face if I need to. Remember, the top of the ear is about where that little like crack. Like the top of the ear here on let's say look at here's your crash test tummy side of the head. Like the bottom of the ear is going to be about where the bottom of the nose is. The top of the ear is going to be about where the the top of the ear is. So like, we can imagine this face is like the side plane of the face is a cube right here. Okay, Google, set timer 2 minutes.
Done. 2 minutes added to your timer.
Let's do like a side profile right here. So if you can imagine like this being cubed off, basically. You see this little measurement here for the brow line and the nose. Goes back here to the ear also. The simplified forms of a head is a great way to kind of orient yourself thinking three-dimensionally too. And once you start getting used to like how these tools of construction work, like if you got a few minutes, you can bang these out. I would take maybe some images from Andrew Loomis, or if you have access to photos of these, or like simplified forms like these, or just little heads you can copy. Keep those handy on your phone or something, and then if you got a minute, you can sit down and practice them. If you can't think of anything else to draw, doing like little head construction drills is a great way to get warmed up. So that brow should be down there. I'm keeping the neck as a simplified C curve right now, but there's a lot more that you can do with the neck. Like there's the sternomastoid, let's do a quick. There's the sternomastoid muscle that connects to the front of the collarbone down there. There's the trapezius, which is a giant ass muscle that connects all the way down the back. Right there.
Wait, I'm not sure if we're supposed to see anything, but I don't think anything is moving on the screen.
Yeah, your Discord feed died for some reason. The Twitch is fine though.
Just reload Discord. Fucking Christ. Reload Discord and you'll be able to see the stream again.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay. Okay, Google, set timer 2 minutes.
Done. 2 minutes added to your 2-minute timer.
But yeah, having like a 3D model like this. There's even like more figurative faces and stuff. If you have a 3D model, you can use that as a cheat sheet if you are having a hard time with certain head angles and stuff. I would say you want to understand it enough so that you can reasonably construct head angles, but I mean, like, those tough head angles trip up even really experienced artists, so there's no shame in utilizing reference. No shame in utilizing references. There is shame in, say, charging $200 for copying someone else's artwork really badly. You know? Butch Hartman! Sorry. Yeah, a cursed Muppet. Yeah, you can think of that thing as being a cursed Muppet. Body horror Muppetry. We're going to take some more looks at Katsushiro Otomo art during the next break a little bit. I think that would be fun. We are going to be looking at some more Studio Trigger stuff throughout this week, like I mentioned last week. But I thought that a gear shift today to Otomo would be good for confidence building, because Otomo's an amazing... Okay, Google, stop. Amazing artist, and not only that, like his... Okay, Google, set timer for 2 minutes.
Done. 2 minutes added to your timer.
He's a good artist to look at for building your own confidence if you are studying from him or studying materials similar to him, because his the information telegraphed by the features of his character designs is something that you can wrap your head around. a little bit easier if you have a little bit of a figure drawing background. Like, they're pleasing to look at, and they're actually, when you start getting into them, they're pretty pleasing to draw. Like, there's a very volumetric feeling to how he draws his faces, and very humanistic quality to it. Studying someone like him, you kind of feel like you're eating the right art veggies a little bit. Of course, you'd want to combine, like, studying someone like him with, you know, referencing real life. But we're mainly going to be focusing on him today. I'll probably break out a few photos, though, at the very least, so we can at least touch base with how this stuff applies to real people's faces. But yeah, the reason why I'm going back to the head, aside from, like, you know, taking things back to zero, is the head becomes a measuring unit for the rest of the figure. You want to have an intuitive sense of the head, so you can kind of, like, use it to visualize the general proportions of a figure. Like, I kind of generally know that the head is about roughly the length of an arm on certain characters, for example, or a part of the arm. I know that, like, the body is roughly about so many units of heads tall. Okay, Google, stop. I can start to infer kind of measurements about the legs and the arms and stuff. When I'm doing quick sketch, my proportions aren't going to be perfect, but touching base with the head as a unit of measurement, and also as a way of establishing three-dimensionality in something, is something that you can use to reorient yourself if things are getting a little too loosey-goosey. So you can start with, like, a pretty, like, quick, like, if you get used to this stuff, you can just, like, throw down a quick head like that where, okay, this has all the information in it that you need to kind of tell what direction stuff is in. And then you get, like, a gesture figure in here. I'll change the angle here for you guys. Okay, Google, set timer for 2 minutes. Let's do a really extreme one right there. Actually, something closer to what I'm doing right now. It's like this. Yeah, this has, like, information in it that can influence the proportion and the general kind of flow and mapping and stuff that I make, and the decisions I make in the rest of the figure once I've established the head. You don't always necessarily start a drawing with a head, but usually that's the way to go, because you use it to measure everything else you do. Okay, Google, set timer 2 minutes.
Done. 2 minutes added to your 16-minute timer.
Oh, that was the 16-minute timer. Okay, we'll turn that back then. Well, time for break. Alexa, stop. Okay, Google, stop all timers.
All right, consider it canceled.
Anyway, so yeah, this is a really fun, good way to build confidence, especially for me, because those of you who have been around with me since last year know that I've been doing a lot of relentless head drawing drills, head construction drills. So this is, like, familiar territory for me. Like, all this stuff has now become way more intuitive for me. Like, I remember I remember pretty much all this stuff out of my head. I have done, like, page after page, like, massive walls of Loomis heads and other things and stuff. So this was part of my warm-ups for today. They're not the best heads or whatever, but I was just trying to get kind of clued in and stuff. I took a break from drawing yesterday, so this was me just coming back, getting in shape. These are some Disney head construction orbs that I'll talk a little bit more about. I'll show you what the Disney head construction orbs are real quick before we get into Atomo stuff a little bit more. But Disney head construction, like, usually start with a sphere. Sometimes it's like a distorted sphere, like this shape or this shape, something like that. But your basic Disney character, usually you have like, you have an eye line, and then the eyes usually rest on or below the eye line instead of like, you know, a lot of figure drawing stuff will tell you like, oh, when you got an eye line, you got to make the eyeballs rest right smack dab in the middle of the eye line. That usually happens like from a figurative posing and stuff. But for like a Disney head construction, they will generally often have the eyes resting like on the eye line, on or below it, like that. On Claus, the Postman main character in the Netflix animated movie Claus actually had eyes that they were below the eye line, and the eye line was like particularly high. But I need to actually see the model sheet again to see what they did. But I remember it was something weird, like the eyes were resting like below the eye line, doing something really strange. Because like it would be like this, he had this very, very tiny head sphere, and they had like this giant face and jaw stuff. Postman hat or whatever. But yeah, like your basic kind of head construction, Disney head construction. Start with something like that. If it's an anthropomorphic animal, it had like a muzzle. Like that. But like these things are modular, so you can like add like fairly you can like put human beings on them and stuff. But it's like a simple, less complex way of handling. Disney also has other ways of handling the head, like the sailboat shape. You see come up in Aladdin and Little Mermaid quite a bit. But yeah, anyway, so getting back to Katsushiro Otomo, his head drawing is like particularly very dimensionally well defined for his designs. They lend themselves really, really well to expressiveness, where like they feel pretty grounded in real human expressions, even though they are exaggerated, because there's a lot of like simplicity within the wide open space that he gives for the range of expression that can occur on that three-dimensional face. Like, let me do a quick kind of sketch of Kaneda here. Mine is going to be like way shittier, but I'm just kind of trying to show you like some of the things that are going on here. So first off, there is a sense that there's like that thing I described as like the you think Becker wedge is actually happening there, and you can kind of sense it a little bit. It's like this kind of like carved out Muppety space for the face. The nose is like, so like on the front of your face, the angle of the nose goes like inwards and then it goes outwards down from the brow like that. So that actually does kind of feel like it's happening there. It definitely feels like it's happening there, given like how his eyes are being modified by the facial expression. They're kind of going inwards towards that spot of his face. The nose has a sense of little volume as it's coming off the face, like that. This is a straight-on view, but there is a sense that that hair is wrapping over the head for sure, and around the side planes of the head and stuff. Another thing I really love about Otomo's work is there's always really strongly, proudly emphasized tooth cylinders. He loves opening mouths in a lot of his stuff to really show off the choppers of his characters. to show off the three-dimensionality of their teeth cylinder. Now, what the teeth cylinder is like, say you have a guy like this right here. The tooth cylinder is like it's like if you've ever been in a dentist's office and you've seen like those like kind of dental choppers, like plastic models of teeth, kind of like this. That's what the tooth cylinder is. An artist, when they will, like, imagine a skull around this now. But yeah, but an artist will like often picture that structure as being a cylinder inside the face to simplify it. Like so. Or whatever. It's a little bit low up here. And this guy right here can get popped open when the jaw opens. So those teeth go down. We see more of the top of that cylinder down at the bottom there, see? This is a cartoony, exaggerated version of this idea. He's got hinge of the jaw right there, little hinges right there, holding the jaw out right there. Then when the jaw opens a little ways, we see the top of his bottom row of teeth, the top side of them. Just darken in some stuff there for clarity. So this is kind of a little little mini lecture slash break that we're on right now. I'll just continue going on this for a little bit further, and then we'll get back to another drawing set. You can see like there's a sense of the tooth cylinder in here, and it's reinforced further by like the teeth that are going back into his mouth, the tongue back there even. There's like 3D space inside the mouth and stuff. It's not a flat image. It's a character with three-dimensionality to it that's further reinforced by the shadows on the side of his face. For example, volumetric shadowing comes into play a lot in Katsushiro Hitomo character designs. There tends to be like a lot of simplification I notice in the ears. Like the ears tend to be drastically exaggerated and simple, but they have kind of a sense of volume to them. I won't get too deep into them, but ears are always at an angle. Like you're not looking at a flat thing when you're looking at Kaneda here. You're looking at these things that are kind of like these little saucer dishes with a backing behind them, but have a concave inside to them that can turn towards you, like if you're in profile and you see it straight on like that. But then like when you're looking at the head straight on, you might see part of it tilted a little bit towards you, or at a different angle depending on the person's features. People have ears at different angles and stuff. Another thing, we're not going to be getting too much into hair today, but we will in the future, because hair is something that I've been neglecting that I want to practice more. So you can see there's an origin point for his hair, where everything is coming from, that curves down around his head, basically. Oh, also another thing to note is there is a strong sense of the bony structures of like the jaw and stuff in Otomo's character designs. Like the whole head like feels like a really a solid three-dimensional object. I'm getting the proportions all wrong of this, and this is like horribly off-model Kaneda here, but that's the general idea. Like how a lot of the stuff that's going on in there works. So we will be getting back to another set. I'll give you another minute or two to grab something to drink, get up and stretch for a little bit. In fact, let's set a timer for 2 minutes. Okay, Google, set timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now.
There's also further stuff I could get into about facial expression, about how the expression's being modified. Like my facial expression, I wasn't really thinking about too much about that facial expression, so it looks very stiff and lifeless compared to Kaneda's really funny. This is one of my favorite sight gag moments of the film, where we see him like his like mugshot photos of him from his like school record and his arrest record and stuff, and then the camera pans up to, and then like that stuff that was in close up like it drops away. We see him trying to like look like a nice little mama's boy for the policeman. Yeah. But you can see some examples of what I was talking about with that shading right here. Like, there's highlights here, I can tell, on the edges. There's, actually, no, that's not a highlight. But, yeah, no, yeah, this area is lit. This area is shadow. That area is lit. And that's darker shadow right there. On the jaw, behind the jawline right there. That's like the side plane of the... But see, like, all the stuff I'm talking about, even though his head's mostly cut off, you can see like a Loomis head side plane. You can see like a face wedge right there holding the features. You can see the 2-cylinder. You can get a sense of that the hinge of the jaw is opening. And even though that these are really kind of like almost boxes right here, these are very subtle in how they very slightly bend in the pencil work there. Pencil line work there. They look like 2-cylinder very slightly. There we go. There's a lovely 2-cylinder right there. Lovely open hinged jaw. Really stretched, exaggerated face right there. Where the bone of the face itself is actually stretching in cartoon exaggeration here. Okay, Google, stop. But this shot right here, and a lot of shots like it, goes to show, like, even on realistic characters in very like serious films.
I don't understand.
Google, okay, Google, stop. Even on very serious films dealing with very serious traumatic subject matter and stuff, you can use the principles of cartoon exaggeration to achieve certain effects. Like this kind of stuff would be not out of place for an animated horror film. Well, I mean, essentially there was horror elements going on in the scene too. Like very, very traumatizing. Look at the contrast between the two expressions here. Like the bone itself of the character's face is actually being stretched in those frames. To be clear, that's a cartoon. That's something that wouldn't happen in nature. That's cartoon exaggeration happening right there. It's a lovely little upshot of Kaneda. I don't think this is the best drawing of him, but it's a pretty good upshot. Yeah, that's a really nice one right there. So let's see. I'll put on a particularly good. Oh, that's nice, really nice Stanley Kubrick fan art by Katsushiro Otomo. See if I can put on a particularly good shot. So some of the anime cells actually kind of omit and overly simplify some information. Some of the manga panels do too. So you kind of have to know where they're fudging it. Like Otomo kind of fudged this ear here a little bit. And I think Kaneda's eyes are a little bit too close together there. But like overall it works really well. But this right here, this is like Otomo bringing his A game for face drawing. I'm gonna maybe leave this on screen. So this is an unusual angle to see this at. I have no doubt that Otomo no doubt like liberally just like turns his page around constantly when he's drawing or inking, like as any mangaka worth of salt probably would. But this is an unusual face angle to have right here, and we can see all the three-dimensionality of it. You see this negative space right here where you could wrap lines over this, and based on what we know about everything around the edges here outside of this negative space, we would know about where our mind is filling in the gaps of like where that face is curving and stuff. Stuff like that in illusion of faces is always very interesting for me to look at. But we're going to take a little detour, and we're maybe going to put up some skulls. So we're kind of doing like a little bit of a mini speed run of stuff that I've covered before here. So we're going to use this skull for our next drawing set. So Alexa, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds, starting now.
Okay, Google, set timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now.
So now we're going to do the same thing that we just did, but we're going to do it with skulls. And I'm going to maybe take a quick peek and see what people are doing in Magma Studio. I have my version of the drawing app open here. Somebody doing stuff on this page. There's plenty of stuff in page number 2 open. The link is in the Magma Studio links section of my Discord. Let's see. Wow, these are yeah, there's some good stuff going on here. Look at these. These are very nice studies right here. Whoever did this. Very, very nice. These ones look a little wonky, but I see them struggling with kind of the right things, like the jaw and stuff. It's kind of getting a little funky. This should be a little bit more on the halfway, but it's looking good. This one's pretty scribbly. I would say maybe slow down and take it slow, and try to pay attention to the angle of stuff. If you need to kind of loosen up and get the nervous energy out of your hand before you can slow down, that's fine. But I would try to kind of exercise a little bit more clarity if you're able to. If you scribble way too much, you're not going to be able to track what you're getting right or wrong. That's the thing. But I don't want you to be super self-conscious about, oh, am I drawing this right? Am I drawing this wrong? No, it's not the name of the game. Just try to get into the right headspace where you can start breaking the stuff down. It's okay to be a little sketchy. Just try to edge yourself towards being more confident. Let's see here. Yeah, it's still trying to wrap your heads around stuff. Some of these are working a little better. Like this one's working a little better. Some of these I see you kind of, I see where you kind of messed up, where it looks like you kind of know you messed up, like on this tough angle of the bottom of the jaw here, for example. Like those upshots are gonna trip up a lot of people. Yeah. These are really nice. I want to find out who did these. These turned out really nice. Yeah, I'm going to change the head angle right now, let's see, like there. And okay, Google, set timer for 2 minutes, and I'm going to join in with drawing with you guys now.
Done. 2 minutes added to your 2-minute timer.
So I'm still going to be using some of the Loomis stuff, but skulls are really complex shapes. So it's okay to kind of try to break them down however you can. So I'm kind of thinking of the skull as being like kind of a loaf of bread, this cranial mass a little bit. I'm still thinking about like that side plane of like how the Loomis side plane thing works. I might throw some lines in there that are kind of like about in the same spot as the crash test dummy Loomis thing works. But I'm going to be kind of going by observation right now of like seeing how stuff kind of bulges out and changes angle. I'm going to try to simplify it a bit. Like I can see that like there's this kind of curve coming down the front of the skull's face, going down like that. I'm going to use these lines right here for kind of like a false perspective, 3D tracking lines for the vanishing point on the face a little bit to kind of help me wrap my head around thinking about the skull three-dimensionally a little bit. There's the Zygomatic Arch right there. That's that weird kind of bony protrusion over the jaw that connects up with the corner of the cheek. Zygomatic Arch is such a funky bone. So as far as drawing skulls goes, the way you get better at drawing skulls. Well, okay, Google, set timer for 2 minutes. The way you get better at drawing skulls is you just draw out the skulls.
Done. 2 minutes added to your 2-minute timer.
They are complex objects, so it forces you to make some decisions about how you handle them. Like I said, we're kind of doing a speed run of this kind of stuff that I'm going over, like going from Loomis heads to skulls is something that I would like focus on like 1 week and then next week. But I kind of want to jump into this real quick, so we can get kind of like an overview of like these different tools. If it's too much for people here, I can knock it back to the Loomis stuff. But there's not. Oh fuck. Might be a little bit too much for me because look at how crappy I'm doing. Look at the crap ass job I'm doing on this skull here for this head angle. So I'm gonna try massing it. I'm gonna get sketchy and dirty with this one, I think. Yeah, those up shots help trip me up. They trip lots of people up. The only solution to them is to just practice them a bunch. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
There's 15 seconds left.
Okay, Google, add 2 minutes to timer.
Done. 2 minutes added to your 2-minute timer. You've got 2 minutes and 9 seconds left.
So maybe avoid an ambiguous angle like that. Let's do a straight on. Let's maybe do some like really basic angles to kind of get oriented with the skull. Straight on is actually pretty hard to do right because it's symmetrical. So we might come back to this a couple times during this set. But if the skull is a little bit too much for you right now, I would recommend just using the Loomis construction stuff that we were doing, and then just trying to apply it to these skulls. Like just use the angle that the skull is at, and then use the Loomis construction stuff that I showed you. But we'll see where people are after this set. If this is a bit much, I can knock it back. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
You've got 2 seconds remaining.
Okay, Google, add 2 minutes to timer. Okay.
Done. 2 minutes added to your timer.
So here we go. Another simple angle. Do a profile view. So the cranial mass is this kind of like football or bread, like a loaf of bread shape, a sourdough bread loaf almost. You can see like the Loomis head side plane is basically a simplification of what's going on right here. And by the way, this skull that we're looking at is a simplified version of realistic anatomy skulls. So even it is less complicated, significantly less complicated than an actual skull. Skulls are very kind of gnarly, strange, organic objects. And when you study anatomy and you apply it into figure drawing stuff, you often do quite a lot of simplification, unless you're trying to go for like medical accuracy. But you can see like the same things that go into the Loomis head work here. Like we can imagine like a side plane of the head like that. Some of the things to look out for is the jaw right here. Okay, Google, stop. Okay, Google, set timer 2 minutes. We're going to spend a little extra time on this guy right here so I can... Okay, Google, set timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, starting now.
So some of the things to pay attention to, the cheekbone right here, which is actually coming towards us right here and changing at an angle. So this is actually like, that's the front of the cheek right there, that little area that I just darkened in right there. Then you got the Zygomatic Arch, which is a really interesting, complicated bone that fuses with the rest of the skull. There's muscles that actually go under it that connect up with this area right here that are what opens and closes your jaw. And if you open and close your jaw, and you open and close your jaw, and you feel the sides of your head, you can actually feel the muscles that are used to open and close your jaw flexing. So we got the orbits of the eye cavity right there. There's a little bit of like a bone, this is simplified right here, but there's like a little bit of a bone fusion point right here. There's different parts of the skull when you get further into anatomy that are kind of like fused together parts of the skull that kind of separate and grow out from each other as you age. Or like the serrations in the skull and stuff. And there's other parts where they kind of have like cartilage fusions and stuff. The skull is a marvelously fucking complex thing. But yeah, like you can see that Ethan Becker wedge I was talking about. That's essentially like this right here. Like that shape right there. And then the Loomis shape is this. So you notice the head sphere of the Loomis head goes a little bit further down than the back of that head right there. Like this area kind of gets chopped off, basically. Versus the sphere simplification of the Loomis head. That's just something to be aware of. That's also where you see, like, when people do, like, Loomis heads and add necks to them, you'll see, like, this kind of C-curve neck usually coming off there. About where that part of the head is. And I'll do another color here for the jaw right here. It's part of the Loomis head. Okay, Google, stop. But you can see like, here's some more. This one is a Riley method rhythm right here. This is a rhythm that comes from the top of the ear down to like corner of the jaw right here. That one's not really necessary, but it can be helpful. And remember, there's this rhythm right here that goes, this little structural thing that goes right there. There's that there for the top of the head. This about here for the brow line, I think. Bottom of the nose. Brow line. Brow lines actually need to be a little bit higher, I think, right here. That means the sphere is a little bit higher. It isn't exact though, mind you. Like the Loomis head does not exist in nature, and like accurate head proportions to the Loomis head doesn't exist in nature. The purpose of a tool like the Loomis Head or simplification, or the Ethan Becker Wedge, or other abstract simplifications, is to kind of get you in the ballpark of something that looks and reads kind of plausible as a head, and then you can adjust it. So I hope this isn't too overwhelming for people. Okay, Google, set timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, and that's starting now.
We're going to go back to, we'll go back to a straight on view because I was a little bit more warmed up for that profile view. Now we can go back. Actually, let's go to a 3/4 view. Then we can do straight on.
Are you ever gonna do another like in-depth class on skulls or?
On skulls? You mean like a more in-depth skull anatomy class?
Yeah, something like that.
Sure. We'll see. It depends how I fit it in.
This is the first time I've actually drawn them, so.
There's recordings of past classes I've done where I talk about the skull. I think there's at least 2 of them. 2 or 3 of them, actually. So now that I kind of have a sense of how this thing works, I'm kind of playing it freehand right now. I'm just loosely using my construction instincts to kind of put the shapes in based on the measurements I've done and my understanding of 3D form. If you are having trouble, putting it together yourself, feel free to construct the Loomis head, kind of orient you around the skull's construction. And I think we'll maybe add like 2 more minutes to this to give people enough time to kind of let this sink in. Okay, Google, add 2 minutes to timer.
Done. 2 minutes added to your timer.
So as I'm doing this, I'm kind of thinking 3-dimensionally. This kind of also hooks into the way I've been having people draw my gesture drawing classes for the last week. This is a sketch, but it's a sketch where I think 3-dimensionally as I'm making my lines. Like you want to be always thinking in 3D when you're drawing 3D objects or people or faces and stuff. The only time when you want to think 2D is when you're literally drawing a 2D flat surface that is flat, or specifically flat design. So we got this. So we got this kind of thing going on right here with the front plane of the cheek right there. That sort of fuses to the jaw a little bit. Right down in there. And then there's a plane change right here where it wraps back into the corner of the cheek and the zygomatic arch over the jaw. Mind you, we're not trying to record every minute detail here and with accuracy. We're just trying to wrap, like, I want people to get imperfect with these, and I want people to just use this as a time to kind of try to understand this. Because I want you to, when you come away today, I want you to keep practicing this and make it second nature to regularly kind of practice this stuff as your warm-ups and so on. Like, this should not be the only time, especially if you're new to this, this should not be the only time that you ever do drawings like this. If you're being introduced to this method, don't worry if you suck at it. I'm showing you this to give you the tools to practice this on your own. And remember, you have the Sketchfab link right here that I've linked in the Discord chat and in the Twitch chat earlier. You can use. You can also look to great artists like Katsushiro Toma that do really awesome cartoon simplifications of how the human face works. And you can also look to real-world photos. Okay, Google, stop. Okay, Google, set timer for 4 minutes. Okay,
Done. 4 minutes.
Alright, I was going to do a draw over that skull, but I think I'll save that. So we're going to do, now we're going to do the straight on again, now that we return to it. Straight ons are actually harder to do than 3/4 view and profile view, because you have to be symmetrical with them. And they can kind of throw you off a bit. Because you might not make them as dimensional as they should be. Okay, Google. Okay, Alexa, stop. We'll just continue.
No problem. It's canceled.
Yeah, so we'll just continue on this. The normal time of my drawing sets lately has been 20 minutes, but in reality, like 25 minutes is what I would usually recommend for a figure drawing set. So it's okay if we go over a few minutes here. So check this out. Look, here's a little device that can help you kind of figure out a little bit how skull and the nasal cavity works. Check this out. Look. See the way that I'm drawing this kind of like weird sort of hourglassy sort of shape right there on either side of the face? That's like kind of an X-ray view going up through the face, falling around here and there. Sort of a rhythm line to kind of help you plot the structure and placement of like the nose cavity, the eye sockets, and the tooth cylinder. Let's see here. You can, if you want to simplify it as such, you can like just use like a simple blocky box shape here for the cheekbones, if you like so. Then you can carve and do a little bit, like I'm going to add a little bit of the fusion between the cheekbones and the jaw. I'm going to keep it simple though. I might carve into a little bit with the eye socket. So the eye sockets, you can see right here, there's this kind of raccoon eye effect. Look at like Katsushiro Otomo's. You can see like you can kind of sense this kind of raccoon mask thing that's going on there. That's part of that Ethan Becker wedge that I was talking about, of the three-dimensional shape of that area of the face. Sort of the bandit mask of the forms of the eye sockets and the brow area, the brow and cheek area. So let's see here. Get a little scribbly there. So what's fun about doing like skull studies and stuff like that is like once you start getting into them, they can be really calming. It's like learning by observation from drawing the skull is something reliable you can keep doing over and over again and pick up on quite a lot of stuff from. And it's pretty fun to kind of like test your knowledge of things, to try to like, you know, during the break I'm going to show off a little bit of what I did up here again, where I put some features on it. Let me check this out. Like so, there's that side plane here. I'm curving that in like that. So it's doing like this sort of plane change right here, if you're looking at it in profile. I'm keeping those three-dimensional shapes of either side of the face in mind. In order to keep like, in order to get like somewhere in the ballpark of your symmetry, it's a good idea to like check back and forth across the sides of the face. Jump your tensile back and forth. If you're doing this freehand, it can be really tricky to eyeball it. And I would recommend testing yourself every few skulls or so with doing a straight on, doing these practices at home. But that said, once you start to get used to how the skull works, you can start having some fun with it, you can start just like freehanding things. Like, kind of already know how the Zygomatic Arch works and stuff, and I can just start 2-cylinder in there, jaw, right there. Get it here and there, brow. Get the center line down there for the face, the skull. Make it like a little neck in there. Side plane, the head there. Pronounce the brow a bit more. And as a last touch, before I move on to another sketch, darken in the underside of stuff a bit. Add some goony eyes in there, why not? Add some hair to the top there. So it's a pretty plausible ghoul. We add some drool or gore coming from the mouth or something. Scruffled clothes. Now it's starting to look more like a zombie ghoul kind of thing. Add some, maybe some noir lighting here. That's like darken in this side here. Wrap the shadows over the form of the face a bit. But yeah, then you can like fill up a page with like tons of little doodles of skulls, like quick drawing drills and stuff. Keeping those simple shapes in mind, or keeping the simple shapes in mind that you started to wrap your head around from the Loomis head. But also like working from an idea of the complexities of the skull. You're not going for accuracy when doing these, you're trying to play with the ideas of them. You know about the 2-cylinder, you know about, from observation, a little bit of how the jaw works and stuff. You kind of know how the weird shit that the Zygomatic Arch and the bone fusion on the cheek do. You kind of play with that in sketch form. You know about the, from observation, you know about the directional changes of the side of the 2-cylinder. You can just start playing and inventing different angles of the skull. You might see someone's skull. I would hope that people start having a Tetris effect with skulls, and also just for like Loomis heads. Like if you look at people's faces and you find yourself automatically starting to think of the angles of their faces or the skull anatomy underneath and stuff, then you're doing something right, because you want to have that little part of your brain always kind of buzzing and being analytical. About things that you draw. When you look at people's faces, it's not a bad idea to even when you're like in mid-conversation, still paying attention to what somebody's saying. A little part of you, some small part of you is thinking about the angle in the brow of the head of this person's face or something, or how their head changes its look when they turn it in different directions as they're talking to you. So we're on a break right now, I believe. Yeah. I do want people to have fun with drawing heads, skulls, and Loomis heads, and other things. So let's take a look at some more Katsushiro Otomo work real quick. We'll also take a look in chat. That's a really particularly gruesome scene from Domu right there. Domu is really fucking good, though. Domu was actually a huge influence on a lot of other filmmakers too, by the way. Specifically the comic Like that comic got around in the U.S. Kind of surprised it never got adapted to animation though. But the ideas in it got expanded on in like in Akira. So I'm doing like a quick drill over some stuff that would take a little bit longer for me to explain about facial anatomy. Save that stuff. We'll stay going more in depth for that for another time. But like the surface muscles of the face and stuff. I think the nose actually goes a little further down than that. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it can be fun. Like after you do a set of drawing skulls, or just like Loomis heads and stuff, to kind of go in and try to see if you can add in facial features. Just kind of like, even if you don't really know that much about facial anatomy, it can be fun to kind of play with it and stuff. Okay, Google, set timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, starting now.
So I'm really liking how tonight's session is going. It feels pretty chill. This feels like the right kind of tempo to do things at going into the set this week. Let's take a quick look and see what people are doing in Magma Studio. So we do have some other drawing pages right here, 2 and 3 right here, that are available in the Magma Studios links section of my Discord. Because I think there's way more people drawing on here than on this page than we have room for. Yeah, again, these were really good studies. I actually didn't check the Discord to see who. Oh yeah, we also need to check the Discord to see what people are drawing. Oh, neat. This is a model sheet from Disney's Hercules. Somebody posted on yeah, and a character head design, head drawing. There's the Disney. This is a really tiny image, but yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be too hard to find that if we want to look at that later. So here's somebody trying to do a worksheet, kind of like with the worksheet template that I gave in the past. I didn't give out a worksheet template this time, but this is the template that I given people for doing head drawing drills. So the big problems I'm seeing here is like there's little bits in areas where you don't quite understand how the stuff works just yet, so it's kind of getting a little confused. Like the rhythm's kind of thrown off. It's kind of like you're trying to tackle something that you don't quite have the dexterity and the smoothness yet, but I do see bits and pieces of stuff starting to come together. So basically this is kind of a case of keep at it and keep pushing yourself, because you are kind of wrestling with the right things. And eventually, like even stuff like this, some of this starts to get into the territory of you kind of need a mirror. You need a mirror, and you need to study facial expressions to know what to push a little bit more. But I do like this practice sheet. So good job. Let's see here. These are really tiny, but I can see you're trying to wrestle with the right things. There's a lot of the main newbie errors that are going to happen with doing these, and sometimes I'll mess up with this myself. Is sometimes the jaw sort of looks like it's sort of that dude right there. He looks like he got his face smashed in a car wreck, basically. Like the jaw area has gotten like shunted forward a bit. This one's actually looking a little bit better. It's kind of hard for me to see this small. This one's looking pretty good. Just zoom back. That one's looking pretty good. This one, it's a good study. I think there's a little something weird going on with the cranial mass, what I can tell back here, but even at this size, I can tell it's mostly working. Yeah.
I think if you open up at the original size, it will go bigger because that's like an 11 by 17 canvas.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Okay, Google, stop. A lot of this stuff is like a lot of the problems I see people running into are very much kind of confidence building issues too. Like, I want people to push themselves, even if they're not completely confident with the technique that they're using, to try to make a strong statement. Make a strong, clear statement, even if the statement is wrong. If it's a strong, clear statement, we can see what's wrong in it and fix it a lot easier versus like, you know, getting really, really kind of self-conscious and stuff. I want people to convert themselves in the nude, artistically speaking, basically. I want you to prance out on stage with the emperor's clothes on, proudly, with your little naughty dangly bits and your baubles flopping around and your fagoos flopping around proverbially as you expose yourself and your weaknesses. Because once you get over that ego death of confidently pushing, like, not just like being confident enough to show your flawed work that you need to improve on, but also I want you to confidently and brazenly like make confident decisions. Like, I'm going to make a decision, I'm going to stick with it. Oh, I messed up. I can fix that mistake though, or I can try it again. But I want people to make confident decisions, and I want people to build up that confidence. Confidence is something that needs to be built up. There's times when you'll feel less confident, times you'll feel more confident. I want you to find strategies for yourself to build your confidence. And one of those is by studying from existing artists like this, including doing draw-over studies. Like this. So you see these two lovely heads from the Akira manga. So I'm going to do a quick demonstration here. Consider this part of what we're doing right now. So I'm going to upload this to the Drawing Corner chat for you to try out for yourselves. So there's this image right here. And if you can't get a hold of this, if you're just in the Twitch, don't worry, you should be able to find an image like this from Google image searching Katsushiro Otomo and Akira. So, doing draw-overs is an amazing way to build confidence. I would say that you don't want to do them solely. You want to combine them with like actually like putting the pieces together and studying and like banging out the drawings yourself too. But doing draw-over studies, especially a lot of them in succession, is a great way to build your confidence. It's a great way to build your visual library. And a little bit, like one or two smidges, like you're not going to become Katsushiro Otomo overnight just by doing even several pages of this. But what you're going to get out of it is like a little bit of it is going to enter your bloodstream, and you will see a noticeable difference in your work the next time you go to freehand. I would actually encourage like bouncing between doing draw-over doing like really methodical, observant draw-over studies. Like in this case, I'm breaking down the structure of these. There's other ways to do draw-over studies. Like if you're doing an anatomy study, for example, you'd emphasize like breaking down like the muscle or bone groups and stuff of an image like this. I'm not going to do that right now though. I'm doing a kind of a volumetric loose breakdown, sort of like testing myself and my observation skills, be able to guess certain things. Like I don't think I'm getting quite the cranial mass right here, but I'm kind of trying to guesstimate where that is within his hairdo. I'm sort of like trying to like work out about like I'm using like I'm tracking like over the center line of his face down the three-dimensional form of his face. Remember that like negative space stuff I was talking about, where we can kind of sense the illusion of where that negative space is occurring. This is me kind of like testing my ability to read and understand that space, because he didn't draw a center line, but there's enough information for me here to kind of infer where that center line is. I'm trying to note like plane changes and stuff, like we see like the shadowed upper edge of his nose versus the bottom. See those eye sockets right here? So like that wedge shape that I'm using in the face right there. Let's see, like you got, here's the center line of the wedge shape. You can break down the eye sockets by kind of carving into it a little bit like this. Usually, like the nose, the bottom of the nose is going to be about here. And then the eyes kind of float in there. I'm doing the wedge wrong, so I've turned it into kind of a boomerang shape. It's actually supposed to be more like this, like the Muppet mouth thing. But still kind of works for what I'm doing. Like, yeah, see, like the divot of the Muppet mouth shape is about like here. It's happening here too. That's okay. If you like, if you make little screw ups and stuff like that, you can always. That's the purpose of doing studies like this, so you can kind of observe, evaluate these things, because the work has already been done for you. Someone else made a drawing that you're now trying to understand and analyze. But here, check this out. Here's that Riley method rhythm right there, going down the side of the face, right there. There's another Riley method rhythm right here, where it comes down off the top of the ear and loops right here for the corner, for like the corner of the mouth. And that'd be happening on the other side here too as well. We're not going to go too much into Riley method today, but I did mention some Riley method stuff in figure drawing, in one of my figure drawing classes from Saturday. So that is a Riley method rhythm, that little thing that's coming up from the top of the ear, kind of coming down to the corner of the jaw right there. So you can use these drawovers to kind of test your construction. You can use them to test your anatomy, test your like observation of the different side planes of the face. There might be information that's left out in these, or information that's fudged or cheated or something in sometimes, and then you can kind of like, you can uncheat them. So you can either like notify what the cheat is, that they're cheating the angle of the drawing in, or you can or you can try to fix the cheat, so to speak, and like draw it as if the cheat was not being cheated. That means work it out three-dimensionally and reverse engineer it slightly. Really depends what you want to do. I mean, the good thing about doing studies like these is you can kind of vibe with them. So like, let's see here. You don't want to be sloppy about them either. I mean, you can use these studies to, you can do these studies on autopilot sometimes if you're not really thinking, if you're not really high on energy the day that you're doing them, but you get the best results out of them if you really kind of think about what you're doing and why and what you're trying to get out of it. And in my case, I already know what I'm trying to get out of this. I'm trying to look for volume and plane changes and structure keys that are related to the stuff that we've been covering tonight. So get this. So bottom of the nose, then we imagine a cube form, plane change, right here for the bottom of the ear. And that somewhere around there is like the corner of the cheek. You can also use the Riley method rhythm line again. Down from the top of the ear. Down to the corner of the jaw. Tetsuo's hair is covering up a good portion of the back of his neck there, I think. Or just like, maybe just up here. His neck is a simple C curve here. It's kind of like, it's kind of bulging down, like his chin's bulging down a little bit, I think. From how Atoma has it simplified. So I do get the angle of the corner of the jaw there. Down. So that line's wrapping over the top of the skull. And even his eyes have dimensionality to them, like even if on like if it's on like a Disney cartoon character face, like eyes have dimensionality to them. Like here's a quick kind of Disney cartoon character. You think about you'll see like occasionally like on like Disney model sheets and stuff, they'll break down like how the eyes work, how the eyes work as like kind of 3D object surfaces and stuff and like that. I think the Genie model sheet for Aladdin actually shows that off a bit. Let me bring that up real quick. Actually, is one of the Genie model sheets here. Genie model sheet. There we go. There's the famous dimensional Genie model sheet right here. Look at that. So the animators don't necessarily draw that way when they're every single fucking time when they're animating it, but this is like telling them how to think of the 3D shapes of the character and stuff when they're animating them. He's not a flat, even though he does like a lot of really stylized poses and stuff. He's not a flat thing. He's a pliable 3D shape, basically. And that's how the artist.
He's the personification of Robin Williams.
Yeah, rest in peace. There's some pretty sad stories about Disney kind of cheating him a bit, and so that's why you never hear him reprise the role of the Genie again. He didn't want the Genie being used in merchandising and stuff because he thought that would be like really crass. He didn't want to be associated with that kind of merchandising, but they did anyway, and he got really pissed at them when they backstabbed him on that. Arguably, it was probably a little short-sighted on Robin Williams' part because, you know, Genie's like a kind of a transcendent classic character in Disney, but I mean, it is. At the end of the day, it is like a business, and Robin Williams is a guy who cares very much. Even back then, he cared very much about like his art and his craft and stuff, and that kind of crafts commercialism didn't sit too well with him. It's kind of weird given some of the other films he was in later. I don't know. I'd say that these are probably the most in-depth. These are really kind of haphazard, but these are kind of like probably the most involved draw-over studies I've done in a while. But there's a lot more information packed into these than other past studies I've done. For the heck of it, I'm like kind of throwing in like these. This is a 3D shape right here. You see, volume. Remember looking at the Genie model sheet that we just looked at, like. You can think about stuff in terms of like 3D forms. You could wrap it. You could potentially wrap like a wireframe form around these characters. So I'm gonna maybe shift us to a different image here, so that we can get another little bit of draw over study practice. Here's a nice profile view of Kaneda. Might use. Here's another nice upshot right here. Where he's doing, Otomo's kind of doing a cheat to vanish the chin a bit, but this is still a really nicely handled upshot. Yeah, this is kind of a vignette. This one right here, I would have to, yeah, I'm gonna use this actually, but like I'm gonna show you, like, once you understand the rules of head drawing, you can take fragmented information like a vignette of a head, and you can extrapolate information from it to draw the rest of the head. So in this case, I'm actually gonna tilt this at an angle here so that I can track what I'm looking at a little bit easier. Which is not unheard of. Like, most artists will, and animators especially, will be. That's why those light table discs are discs, so the animators can turn their drawings around to draw them at different angles to either like do stuff like this where they need to like kind of see the head at an angle where it's not going to go wonky on them, or to pull a line that they can only pull from their hand in that particular position. Stuff. So you'll see a lot of animators like rotating their work, and I really should be using that too, because there's a tool like that built into Clip Studio and most drawing apps that I really should be using more extensively. And I think it really honestly would improve the quality of my work if I remember to keep using it. There's times when I've managed to start using it and then I forget about it. I think I need to make a pledge for myself to start rotating my fucking canvas. because I feel like I might be like handicapping myself horribly by not doing that. I know how important that is. Rotating and flipping your canvas, by the way. It's another thing. Fortunately, Clip makes it really easy to do that. It has a flip canvas tool right here. Flip horizontal and flip vertically right there. And there's also rotate right here, but you can also hit the R key for that. I actually think I think it might bind it to my my pen in the future. Anyway, so yeah, we can infer the rest of his head, kind of using like the Loomis head construction. His jaw is open, so his jaw is at an angle, kind of. It's not completely accurate to how that jaw would be angled, but it's close enough. So as before, like, I'm kind of thinking three-dimensionally. I'm thinking about how like that section of the nose right there with the nostril, like that, how that section of the nose kind of wraps over three-dimensionally. These eyes are resting inside the head. And they're sticking out. Right there. Sticking out of this socket area behind a fleshy mass. This kind of thing right here with like... So here's the... right there. So you get these flat planes right here for the bottom and the top of the eye. This is almost like a miniature version of the Ethan Becker mouth wedge, the Ethan Becker brow wedge. So like that essentially is a similar form as this, and how it works, like this kind of Muppet mouth effect. Where it's going. Right there. But of course this, because Kaneda right here is really thin eyes, like we do see a little bit of an indication right here of some of the eyelash sticking out over there and a little bit of the underside of the eye with a little bit of the flesh there. The flesh there of the eye resting on the socket. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. It's a little interesting detail, but Yeah, so like I'm trying to infer a little bit of like where Kaneda's 2-cylinder would be in the face. Since his jaw is open, his jaw is going to be at an angle. So his top teeth are going to be like kind of parallel, sort of. These teeth here are going to be more at an angle. I think they would actually be at more of an angle than this. So I'm kind of exaggerating it a bit. But I'm going kind of X-ray mode on his face a little bit. To sort of think about how his face structure works. Because like this stuff is like in the back of the heads of the animators and artists that animated this scene. They understand how the character works internally. They don't have to draw it out like this exactly in the roughs. They have like a shorthand construction for how Kaneda's face is constructed, built off of Kazushiro Otomo's cartooning style, which is rooted in a very scrupulous acknowledge of figure anatomy and how faces work. So I really want there to be more of a throwback to Akira style animation in the future in anime. Like there's so many throwbacks, like retro throwbacks to different types of different styles of anime. I want to see some retro throwbacks to Katsushiro Otomo style stuff that is like way more pliable, expressive, and rooted in a very, very in-depth knowledge of the how like real human faces work. I think that Watanabe, Cowboy Bebop dude, his productions tend to be skewed in that direction a little bit, actually. It's not in Otomo's style, but like we were looking at Samurai Champloo the other day, and there's a lot of moments in that series that have like a really kind of solid understanding of how human faces work. It's not always consistent though. Sometimes the faces get really kind of flat anime at certain points, but thinking about Samurai Champloo a little bit as I draw this character out here, for example. So it's a little bit more Samurai Champloo style. And let's see here, something that's a little bit more Otomo. Let me put on some other examples here. Let's get a good angle here somewhere. It's a good one. Yeah. You can see this kind of like handling the nose as it's kind of like its own little separate structure that helps build the face up a bit. Big emphasis on the roundedness of the head. Big emphasis on the mouth of the tooth cylinder. I don't have this character's mouth open, so I can't really show off the Otomo teeth. But I could if I did open this guy's mouth. This character's got more facial proportions in line with an Akira character, but I'm going to maybe try to do an interpretive version of the character I did on the left. It's sort of an Otomo style, slightly. I'll give him a Akira bowl haircut, but then I'll just like fray out his hair back here a bit. Beef up his nose size a little bit, just why not? Otomo's ears kind of look a little bit like Akira Toriyama Dragon Ball ears a little bit. That's one area where he kind of deviates a little bit, I think, from the very dimensional drawing that he does normally. But it's great though, because like the ears are great for tracking the character's face direction, and they add character and quirky personality looks to their faces. Anyway, we kind of went on a detour here, but I hope you guys are getting a lot out of this. Let's see. Maybe we can do another set. So let's take a break for 3 minutes, and then we'll do another set of skull poses, or maybe we could try... Let's see, one of the other heads here might be fun to do. Something that kind of looks very pseudo-Otomo-ish. Like maybe this. Or this. I think this right here. This is a Riley method head right here. This is a very complex form. And also there's a lot of warping from the angle that we're looking at it from. But this right here, like, this feels very much like an Otomo drawing to me. So we might use it for our last set. What time is it? Well, we have 2 more sets we can do tonight, this evening. So, okay, Google, set timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, starting now.
Look at that. When you spin around, because like the features are shrunk back there, it starts to look like in a Tomo, like one of the kids from Akira, or like the Domu old man. A little bit like a Brainiac sort of thing. I think we'll mostly be sticking with like front angles. I'll try to avoid stuff like this where it gets really like where the wireframe kind of merges and looks really funky. Like this is a pretty good angle. You don't necessarily have to copy the rhythms on here, but this is like kind of a map to kind of this is kind of a map to show you like how to think of the masses of the face, basically. You want a link? Okay, well, I'll link you the whole thing here. I have a whole Sketchfab folder with all this stuff. That's in the Twitch. It was linked in the Discord, but for the people following along at home, I'll link it here. I would encourage people to keep using the head reference from here to practice and stuff. Some of these models can actually be downloaded to software programs. Some of them are free, so you can get like even better angles than some of these potentially. I actually might try doing that, like in Blender or something, for future classes. These are some nice heads here. I think I'm going to be doing these drawovers of these for the next set. So I'm really getting a lot out of doing these drawovers. Remember, these classes that I teach, these are also study sessions for me as much as they are for you guys. I'm doing this to learn from stuff because I've got a storyboarding class I'm going to be taking in next month, and I want to be in very good drawing shape by the time I take that. Yeah, there's a lot to work with on this page for sure. So you can see, like in this character design, there's a lot of information embedded in it on being able to tell what direction the head is turned. Okay, Google, stop. So here, let's do this. I'm going to give you guys this. Instead of a pose set, I'm going to leave it to you guys to use the whatever reference you feel comfortable with practicing from for the rest of the session. And we're going to do a mix of draw-over studies, freehand studies ourselves. Because I do like the vibe that we got going with this right now. But I'm going to leave it to you to how you study from this for the rest of the session. And I've got this right here that I'm going to be concentrating on because this is multiple head angles right here that I can break down. And you guys can try breaking them down too, or you can try some of the other stuff. In fact, let's see here. I'm going to upload the whole PureRef file that I have. So here we go. This is the PureRef file. PureRef is a free program, so that'll be uploaded to my Discord chat. And for those of you who are in my Twitch, who have not joined my Discord, here's the Discord link now in Twitch. So that'll be uploaded there. You can download it. If you want to use the PureRef file, you can use that to export images from, and so on. PureRef is a free piece of software that you can use for making reference image boards, and it's a really, really versatile piece of software. It's free. Here's the site. You can download it. I believe it's on Windows and Mac. It's really fucking useful. Anyway, so I'm going to get started on the next set. We will just vibe for the rest of the session, and we'll just kind of take things at our own pace, and I want to encourage people to do study and vibe, self-driven practice. You can watch what I'm doing, you can talk about what you're doing, and ask questions. I want to open the floor for the rest of the session for people to talk about what we're doing, and so on. So, okay, Google. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes, starting now.
That's just so we can track time of how long we're going to spend on these. We're really just going to study and vibe for the rest of the session. So yeah, like I was saying, this character design has a lot of stuff embedded into it, so you can tell what angle the heads are tilted. One of the common ways that Otomo's character designs telegraph their what angle the head is at is like those hair highlights and how they're ringed around the head. You can tell like about where the top of the head is usually from them. Ball caps and stuff are also great ways of doing that too, and that's not even necessarily unique to Otomo. But as of course you can see like his hair is further wrapping around. The hair highlights are further wrapping around the head. You can see like the top of the cap. There's a line in the top of the cap here as part of the character design, a seam line, so you can further tell. The seam line is almost like the center line of the face right here for this guy, because you can infer it down the front of that cap. Then it's going on the underside of the cap, down his face, down his stupid face, down his chin right there. This is one way you can study too, by the way. You can try to find the center line of the surface area of the face. You can also look for the center line of like the center line rhythm line of the face, like this. Another way you can study is you can kind of look for the three-dimensional wraparound stuff. Like this kind of wraparound effect going on here, because his face is an organic form. So even though that you could break the face into kind of a box shape, a 3D box shape, he's not a Roblox character, he's a human being, so the lines tend to wrap over the three-dimensional form. But you can still think about it in terms of like angle changes, like plane angle changes. So instead of like thinking about the face in terms of like a fucking Roblox face or something, or a Minecraft face like that, you think of it more in terms like and you might have a sharp plane change here, but it might be a little bit more rounded or organic, like, and bulgy. Like it's the difference between, like, say, between, say, something like this and something like show an example of like a organic shape that still has dimensional telegraphs in it. Anyway, it's up to you what you want to take out of doing studies like this. This ear is actually looking a little bit flat and almost in profile right here to me on this model sheet for some reason. So I'm gonna kind of adjust that a bit. It's just, I might be wrong about that, by the way. There might be a reason why they did that, but to me that looks a little, just ever so slightly off. So I'm just gonna adjust that a bit.
Is there a cheat to correctly distance the ear away from the eye?
Depends on what angle the head is at, but I mean, you just think of like the best way to track it is to find the angle of the brow, and then find the angle of the head, and then you find the jaw, wherever the jaw line is. The ear is going to be on the opposite side of it, basically.
So I think if you go into the drawing corner chat, I can show you what I'm talking about, because like that's sort of what I did, but even that still felt way too close. Go to like the long thread image up right there, yeah. Last one.
The last one.
Kaneda's like stupid face, yeah.
Well, I can. Well, part of it is that you didn't have. You're not quite used to how this stuff works yet, and so you were trying to invent on something you weren't seeing there. So let's try to see what went wrong. Because like getting like the jaw to work right is one of those common beginner mistakes. It kind of takes a lot of swings and misses before you start sort of letting that before that starts sinking in. But remember the what you're drawing is like a 3D pliable form. But basically, here's your first mistake. You needed to have more confidence in this, for example. You needed to define this better than this kind of blumpy shape right there. Your initial like head sphere was fine, but then this one was kind of not as decisive as it should be. And let's see. I'm gonna make this like perfectly parallel right now, just for this just demonstration purposes. So like that. So I think another mistake you made was you blew up the jaw like way bigger than it should be for his face. When the jaw hinges backwards, it's going to move a little bit past this line, but not too much. So let's see here. We're not doing a draw or study of him. I'm not going to be like fixing it to his face. I'm going to try to correct according to what I see here. So we got our measuring points here of the thirds roughly. Of course, his jaw's open, so his jaw's hinged down just a little bit. Just going to put the bottom of the chin about down here. Hinge of the jaw is right around like the base of the ear-ish. Base of the ear is right about here. This is the ear. Bottom of the ear is where the bottom of the nose is. Top of the brow, right there. I'll just kind of use what you drew here. And we haven't gotten into the proportions of the face yet, so don't worry too much about the proportions of the features yet, like the lips and stuff. So don't worry too much about that or the placement of them as much yet. But here we go. We can infer the two-cylinder a little bit here, and we'll kind of readjust around this a little bit. I'm just going to try to get something that feels plausible to me. So this is just a sketch demo. Actually, it's not too far off. I think like this bloody area of the jaw, I just needed to get some surgery done to it.
Well, I mean, the reason why that actually happened, because I had it originally in that position before, was I was looking at the drawing and I was noticing that the measured distance between the eye socket and the ear was much greater in his drawing than it was in mine. So I'm trying to figure out where I went wrong with the measurements.
And also, the way this jaw is hinging is also possibly very incorrect too. So I'm just guesstimating something that kind of seems like semi-plausible to how this would actually work. So it's a little bit of a step up from the problems that you had, basically. So this is by no means a perfect drawer, but this is like a step up, basically. And maybe I'd like shrink the proportions of the eyes a little bit. But it's already starting to look functional at this point. Anyway, let's see here. I've got more studies to do on this guy. So yeah, this head right here is tricky because his head is facing away from us like these, but we can tell what angle it's at based on those glasses right there. See? We can also kind of tell from like the bottom. We see like a little bit of the top of the lip. We see a little bit of the bottom of the. We see a little bit of the underside of the lip, the chin there a bit. We see the underside of his chin here a bit more. So we know his head angle is probably something like this, based on like how his glasses are going there. I'm not too sure about his ear, but maybe like there's something going on here that I'm not seeing with that. But yeah, like you can sort of eke out roughly about where the top of the head is based on that.
I mean, if I'm using the eyes as the measurement device, it seems like it's like 4 or 5 eye lengths just to get to the ear.
Well, as far as the ear goes, the ear is like, if you're using the Loomis head, it's literally just a matter of, like, you use that crash test dummy form, and once you immediately know where the top of the ear is, you know where the placement of the ear is based on this. Once you know where like the bottom of the nose is, then you can just use that as your basic unit of measurement for plotting and about where the ear is. Like on this guy right here, his nose angle is going up over here, so that, and his glasses are actually becoming a framing device with his brow there a little bit. It isn't perfect to a Loomis head for him, but it tracks with the same idea. Some other stuff here too. We can kind of tell like the back of his head is much more visible here. We've got kind of like a little center line action going on here, but where I think the center line of his neck is. His eye socket is doing funky things right here, but you can see like that. There's that we can see the underside of that Muppet mouth I was talking about. There's this eyeball in there. The underside of his nose. So undersides here and there. So this head right here, we can see what angle it's at. Again, looking at the glasses. They are noticeably doing some cheats here. Like this eye is smaller than that eye. Let me trace it. The left eye is smaller than the other eye. That's why I made this kind of like this shrinking box here over about roughly the form of his glasses, because even the glasses are kind of doing that too. You can sort of see that happening here as well. I mean, part of the eye is being covered up here, but that eye right here is smaller. Even this is smaller than this. And this pane of his glasses is smaller than this pane of his glasses. And that's a very slight forced perspective cheat that you'll often see in animated characters and comics and stuff. Like, those are going off to a fake vanishing point somewhere. And that's to create a sense of three-dimensionality, a fake three-dimensionality to the face. You can also see like there's like implied perspective here that's sort of playing off that. Like these kind of feel like they're going towards that same fake vanishing point down here.
Oh, so the rims on glasses really do shrink when they draw in perspective like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I always thought I was crazy.
Yeah, well, in this case, you really have to look for it. So this is interesting right here, because like this is not quite going to the top of his brow, but the glasses are coming into about the top of his ear, so his ear is actually a little bit below where the actual brow line would be. So about here. Again, like the Loomis head thing is not perfect to how a lot of faces are drawn. This guy has different measurements that deviate from the Loomis head in little ways, but overall you can use the Loomis head to break down the structures of the face. If you notice these little kind of spheres I'm doing here, that's just me like massing in. This is a front plane right here. This is the top plane of the head. It's kind of massing those in basically. So all I'm doing right now with that kind of, with the Riley method head that's down in the corner is I'm kind of looking at it a little bit, and I'm thinking I might put a little bit of Riley method stuff into what I'm drawing. Because that'll help me further kind of think about this three-dimensionally, like look at how the eyes are handled on the Riley method head. In this case, this guy's eyeball over here would be smaller than this one because of the fake perspective thing going on here. You can also use some of the Riley method rhythms to sort of break down the nose a bit. And like track different parts of the face. The rhythms are going to be warping because he's got a facial expression going on. So they're going to be distorting and bending very slightly. You can see there's a 3D center line that's going down the face and kind of going over the lips, the teeth and lips right there on the Riley method head. I think those are the corners of the mouth. Yeah, so this would be about here. Just run the sides of this ring through the corners of the mouth. So then you get this kind of this rhythm right here is based on a muscle group in the face that is responsible for your for pulling your mouth wide open, and also like scrunching up your cheeks during certain expressions. It's one of the many interesting things about the Riley method. Actually, like, it has abstractions basically of structures, anatomical structures of how your face works basically. Riley method is particularly advanced, so I'm not going to be remiss if people feel overwhelmed by it. I'm kind of using some stuff incorrectly. I'm sort of going into autopilot a bit with this one, so I'm going to try to move on to the next one so I can start thinking a little bit more proactively about what I'm doing. Alright, so this guy has a very prominent face wedge. I can immediately draw in here, tracking his brow. Let's see, maybe I can sneak some Riley method rhythms into his face. I really love the that one of the there's a lot of little rhythms that I like about the Riley method, and one of them is the this one right here that we were just talking about with the double ring around the mouth area to imply like the to like track the rhythm of those muscles that I was talking about. So let's see, we can take like the top of the ear and we can go down the cheekbone here, down to the jaw there. Then I can put his eyes in their sockets there. Can use the rim of his glasses to sort of start the bottoms of the eye socket rhythm. I'm not gonna go too much more into the Riley method stuff here. I think his cap in this head angle is like popping off the top of his head a little bit. It's hard for me to say. Kind of looks like that. It kind of looks like they cheated at the top of the cap. Like the top of his actual head is going to be somewhere down in here. Okay, Google, stop. What time is it? 8:01. Cool.
I think you want to delete a timer. Is that right?
Alexa, okay, Google, stop.
Okay.
Okay, Google, stop. Ugh. So, let's see here. I think now would be a good time to look at some animation, actually, from Katsushiro Otomo movies. So, let's see here. Several we can look at. Game Boy, Harmageddon, Memories. What was it? I think the Tokyo something. I forget what it was. Otomo,
Tokyo Godfathers?
No. That Tokyo Godfathers is Satoshi Kon. Otomo, Tokyo. Neo Tokyo, I think. Neo Tokyo, yeah. Which is not what the film was originally called in its Japanese release. It was an anthology film. But Otomo did one of the stories in it. Let me see here. Well, first off, we'll look at Harmageddon, because that, I think, is the first film that used. Hang on a sec. Let me see what the Japanese name of the movie is. Anime. Genma Wars. Genma Taisen. Yeah, as you can see, like, the original style of the series was very, very different from the Otomo film that eventually got made. So let's see here. Sakugaburu. Genma Taisen. Let's try that. Oh, Genma. There it is. Here we go. Yeah. So these are using his character design. There's also a bunch of effects animation here that will probably be outside the scope of what we're trying to look at. But I'll find out some mouse overs, which ones have some good character animation close-ups. Well, these ones do. These are his character designs. This is not as refined as, like, adapted and using his style as, like, later stuff like Akira would be, but this still is like by people who like were big fanboys of Otomo's work, who were like really jazzed to make something with him. So there is enthusiasm being put into the character animation and also the effects animation for that matter in this film, which gets really ridiculously psychedelic, by the way. This film. So yeah, it's a little gooshy. But still pretty good. Still pretty damn good animation for what it is. Yeah. I'd like you to compare the Genma Taisen artwork of the original manga. That's the robot that's shooting him. Oh, this is a fan art piece, but this is in the style of the original manga. Yeah, Genma Taisen was a huge hit when it was released in Japan, as we saw in the video that we watched before stream. And it was really interesting, like seeing a this is not unlike like when like Alex Ross takes like 1960s Marvel superheroes and does like a high-end version of them. That's kind of what this film was kind of like. Some really nice stuff here, actually. It's a very nice head drawing. Yeah, very clear head angles. Also, this character has a very simple character design in his features and stuff, so it's pretty easy to track him. I do see a little bit of, like, you can see some warping going on with this one. So this one's his skull, his cranial mass is kind of disconnecting from the front of his face there, and the ear angle is a little bit funky. I think that's like an in-betweener, funky in-betweener moment happening there. You can see that actually happening a little bit. Like if you really look at the in-betweens very closely, like he becomes a different person, almost, with different facial features on some of the in-betweens. But fortunately, his character design is so generic that it still works in spite of those little fuck-ups. Not least this, I think, right here, in like somewhere right in here. Like, this one looks like a Western superhero character. But over in here, this starts to look more like a Tomo right here. Yeah, it's not like you couldn't study from this and like learn a few good animation things along with some character. I don't like the timing of this. This feels really floaty at the end here. Floaty and choppy at the end there, but they're like the overall, you can see like the overall kind of rhythm with like this, like his head going up, his limbs going out, him reacting, recoiling, coming down. That feels really good. Then in the end here, like somewhere around here, it starts to get really kind of choppy. Although I do like how it ends up with the close-up there. Let's see. He looks like a different person again. This looks closer to the model sheet, but this still doesn't really look quite like a Tomo. So this film would be very interesting for like newer animators that are trying, animators that are newer to trying to adapt a Tomo style. A lot of the animators who worked on this would go on to work on Akira with him, where they more successfully adapted his style. Yeah, it's a really pulled back shot, so that the head angle of the information is there, but it's like a really pulled back shot, so there's not much detail there. And look, this is what I'm talking about, where there are times when you draw things flat. This is a flat surface with a flat image being animated flat. Somebody had to hand animate this. So this is really cheated. This gets really gooshy. Look at that. Look at that. Whereas these days they just like they wouldn't hand animate that. They'd just like skew it in computer or something. Some fun effects animation on some 3D some props moving in 3-dimensional space. And he's really off model there, but he has a really nice. This is a nice drawing. This is a pretty nice drawing close up, I would say. There's a very clear 3/4 upward up tilt head angle. Not really moving very much in this shot. Let's get one last set of drawing in before we quit for the day. We'll take a look at a couple more Gemma Tyson shots here. The heck of it. Oh, this is nice right here. So this this underlit kind of still image shot right here. This shows off like the dimensionality of like this is like a cheat code for how to think of Otomo faces, or like basic Otomo model sheet faces, kind of. This one too, but not quite as much, I would say, because it's a little scrunched. Yeah, the characters really feel like Otomo characters, but you feel like the animator's kind of struggling to adapt to his style. So bits and pieces of the work feel like an animator who might have been working on like Western superhero shows here and there, or an animator that might have been working on like something more traditionally anime than Otomo style, and having to adapt to it and stuff. But it's interesting to see like how anime production and advances in the art form of anime isn't just about like technical achievement and stuff. It's also about artists adapting to different styles and techniques. Anyway, so we're gonna do one more set here. I'll leave this lovely little thing on screen here for inspiration, but we're gonna grab maybe grab one more thing, one or two more things here. Grab maybe, I don't think Cowrie's got enough info there for me to vibe with. Let's go through here. What's a good page? Yeah, that's also why I didn't really include any like Gemma Tyson stuff in this, because like there are some good head angles in there, but it's not as worked out how to draw Otomo style, and sometimes the animation cells get pretty gushy compared to like the production quality that went into like Akira or Steam Boy. So we're gonna do one last set. I'll set the timer for 20 minutes, and that'll be our last set for the evening. I do want to open the floor, of course, for people to talk about just any subject. So, okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes, and that's starting now.
Oh, I'm going to copy paste this into the Discord. So I hope it wasn't too overwhelming today. We kind of touched on a lot of complicated stuff. Like, normally when I do a head drawing class, I'm gonna like stick with it at the beginner level for the whole thing. But I think for today, I really wanted to get like kind of a big overview, partly for the people who are still here. Who are still here after like being with me for the last nearly a year or so when we've covered these topics before. And also so that even the newer people can kind of get exposed to see where this stuff is going and how a lot of the stuff fits together. And also, you don't have to be intimidated. Like, for example, like all the stuff that gets really gets really like complicated to kind of wrestle with and deal with. You can start vibing with it a lot quicker by doing draw-over studies like these. Like right now, I'm exercising my spatial awareness and my visual my visual awareness of 3D space and 3D form. Thinking about how Kaneda's face, Kaneda's face is constructed. And all of these principles that I'm talking about of thinking about the faces in terms of 3D structures, these apply to when you're doing your gesture drawing and your 3D figure, and you're doing your figures. And that's what I've been talking about a lot for the last week or so, thinking about figures 3-dimensionally and 4th-dimensionally. But like even when you're doing a figure like this, right here, like you want to think about how it's passing through the 3D space. Like for example, that arm right here is foreshortened because this character's arm is pulled back and bent. This arm right over here, let's correlate this arm to this arm. Even though this arm is kind of stretched out, we're still going to draw like a jump rope between those, sort of correlate them a little bit. So this arm is stretched out and pointing over this way a little bit more. Even when you're doing like kind of loose gestural stuff to kind of get like the basic flow of a pose, and you want to think in terms of what stuff is coming towards you and what stuff is going away from you. Like how that stuff is moving through 3D space. You can kind of feel it out and stuff like. Make adjustments and so on. But here, this is like a rough example. Like I've got a floor grid down there to kind of like fake perspective. I've got kind of like these wrapping lines going over the figure, going off to a fake vanishing point somewhere. I can correlate the limbs to each other. I can like, even when I'm like doing like these curvy, bendy lines and stuff to imply like a line of action or an action stuff, I'm thinking about like, oh, that one's going away from us, this one's going towards us, and so on. I'm thinking in those terms. And then of course I can add in telegraphs later to tell you what direction stuff is going in. For example, this little cylinders here tells you what direction that's going in. I can add a side plane to this body right here, further clarify it. Top of the calf there, going down foreshortened. We're looking down on it in 3D space, kind of. It's kind of a quick and dirty. This is by no means like accurate perspective or anything. This is like freehand stuff you can mess with, sort of play with depth cues. This limb is smaller back over here. I can actually even shrink this arm right here because it's going away from us more. But yeah, I mean, like that kind of stuff we've been talking about in the figure drawing classes we've been doing for the last couple weeks. We're going to be doing more of them this week. We're starting with head drawing today. Wednesday Wednesday we might do some more head drawing too, but we're probably going to be moving into doing more thinking about 3D form figures and stuff, or gesture moving in 3D space. Anyway, I'm really glad with how today's class turned out. This was quite fun and satisfying for me to do. Hope you guys got a lot out of it. Even if you like, if you struggled and you got frustrated with it, good. Because you're supposed to struggle and try to wrestle and exercise your brain doing something you're not used to, that you're not quite getting yet. That's how you start kicking your brain into the problem-solving mode and working up the spatial awareness muscles that you need, that might not be too developed yet, or that you might not be feeling it today on. Like, even when I'm not really quite feeling it, like last Saturday, I wasn't quite feeling it, and I still put in time and effort to study and practice, and that let me kind of. And then I took a break day on Sunday. I didn't draw at all, and then I thought, how can I come back? How can I get eased back in action in a really solid, thoughtful, effective way where I'm not overwhelming myself? And head drawing. It's a great way to do that. And so today was exactly what I needed, and this felt really good to do. Head drawing and head studies. So my homework for all of you guys is to basically keep doing this. Keep doing drills of this stuff. Do a mix of draw over drills. Use the 3D thing. Use the 3D like study tool. Especially if you are wrestling with certain drawing head angles and stuff. Try to create try to get to the point where you can reconstruct a head like this out of your head and have it look pretty plausible. To the point that I want you to get to the point where you start like thinking in terms of three-dimensional forms. You can construct and turn in any direction freehand out of your head, because they start to become second nature because you've done them so many times. So that's my homework this week. I want you guys to do more of this stuff, and by all means submit it to the feedback section in my personal Discord to share with other people and to get feedback on your work. Feel free to give each other feedback too. Even if you're not that good yet, it's okay. You can still try to get feedback. You will actually improve your skills attempting to give people feedback. Just be sure to disclose, I'm not that good, but I'm going to try to give you some feedback here. This is so I can like exercise getting feedback myself. This is something that I'm noticing that I think you can fix in your drawing, and then you do like a draw over study that you post. I'm going to strongly encourage people to do that, even if they're at relatively new skill level. Try to do it. Just try not to have an ego about it. The act of trying to fix other people's mistakes will strengthen you, because when you go through the process of identifying other people's mistakes and fixing them, it will help you see them and fix them when your own work. And also, very often you'll run into this thing where your own work is kind of poopy and stuff, but you're really, really good at noticing what's wrong in other people's work, and noticing the one or two, and you can probably pretty plausibly make those fixes a little bit easier than you can in your own work. Well, that's because you've stepped outside you're outside their canvas. You're not in the nitty-gritty of the piece that has been built up and that you've been staring at for hours and hours. You can zero in on that little bit of information that you're seeing, and that's really valuable, because doing that with other people's work will help you start stepping outside your own headspace when looking at the piece, and be able to view it with fresh eyes, so you notice things you need to fix. And of course, by the same token, you also want to try to get feedback on your work, because you're going to need other people. There's a lot of times you're going to need other people's eyes to notice things that you might have overlooked. As you can see, I'm pretty fluent in using this stuff freely in a freehand sketch form. These simple head constructions. I can spin it onto almost any angle. I still struggle with upshots, And I think most people would be lying if they said that they didn't, unless they're like an absolute art machine. There are absolute art machines for whom drawing like upshots is not a fucking problem at all. Oh, as a little bonus thing, see that little triangle shape that I've been doing on the faces here? Like this little thing right here. You can also think of it like a kite sort of shape, a little bit. Animals. If you want to do animals, easy cheat code for doing animals to just tilt that backwards. Then you have like the cranial mass back up over here. Tilt that backwards. There you go. You got an animal now. If it's a prey animal, the eyes would be out like there. If it's a predator animal, eyes would be somewhere like here, maybe. Or like this. Looks kind of like Legoshi from Pete Stars. Like a derpy Legoshi with like a giant ass long snoot.
Wasn't the second season of that supposed to come out at some point?
Isn't it out already in Japan or something?
I know Netflix had an announcement for it. Now I'm just curious to see when the hell that was. Thus spoke Rishi.
Yeah, thus spoke Rohan Kishpi. We actually watched that on my Discord.
Yeah, like it's in my queue to go watch. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Oh, it's good. I've read the comics I've read all the comics that it's based on, and really good adaptations of those comics. Thus spoke Rohan Kishpi is basically just like some spin-off short stories that that Araki did. I would have to check a JoJo Wiki or something to tell you when exactly he did them, but they kind of feel like he was kind of trying to tap into like DC Vertigo type storytelling a little bit to me. Like they kind of had a very slightly he was like trying to dip into like a higher end storytelling version of the stuff that he'd been doing in the weekly manga JoJo stuff. That's what they feel like to me, because they're more thought out and thoughtful in their storytelling than the constantly flying by the seat of your pants stuff that happens in JoJo's and doesn't let up until like I think like JoJo Lion or something.
It's always just kind of hilarious in the back of my mind that I know that the JoJo series is actually longer than One Piece, which is pretty intimidating.
Yeah. JoJo Lion and both JoJo Lion and this very short stories are very short stories that Araki has done are like examples of what happens when Araki has time to slow down and think and plan. There's significantly fewer plot holes in his work. There's usually a stronger point that he's trying to make in the story.
Isn't that just did that turn into a meme where it's just like Araki forgot?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's like you try doing it. I mean, like, the guy literally like has been like fine. He's hardly the only manga artist that's been like constantly. Like, One Piece has lots of continuity errors like that too. I mean,
you'd think that, but after having gone through the entire series from start to finish over the last year to current right now. Yeah, he did not continuity flub anything.
Oh, he did.
Like he set up so much shit at the start of the series that didn't occur until now.
He did. Actually, there's a lot of stuff. There's a surprising. The thing about him is there's a surprising amount of the one creator One Piece. There's a surprising amount of stuff that he did have planned out way in advance, and there's a lot of stuff that he really did make up on the spot that he only like dropped a hint of that was in the world, and then oh shit, I've got to. But the thing is, like, he usually didn't like follow up on it until he had a good idea to run with it later to develop it. Like minor bit characters and things like that, or parts of the sea that were implied to exist, weren't really developed early on and came later. Obviously, like, you didn't have every inch of everything mapped out, and that's for the best, because part of the tone of One Piece is like you don't really know where they're going to go next, or what kind of weird island with weird rules or weird scenarios that they get involved in has in store for them. So it's Terry Pratt.
Or how he's planning on twisting the knife into your emotional soul next.
Terry Pratchett very deliberately for Discworld, Discworld is a very, very nicely well thought out fantasy setting. For Discworld, he said he didn't want maps of Discworld because you can't map a sense of humor. It's kind of the same. I guess that's kind of the same way with The Simpsons. Like, none of the maps of Springfield are really like actual maps of the canon way that the town is laid out, because I mean, everything is where it needs to be for whatever joke they're trying to make. One Piece is kind of the same way, and it's helped by the fact that the series takes place in a fucking ocean, so anything can be anywhere that they need it to be in this giant ass ocean, and with lots of undiscovered territory and shit. And there's even and if that isn't enough for you, there's even moving islands.
Yep. So.
Yeah. Moving islands and fleets and ships and shit. Yeah.
I do kind of wish he had done another like Sky Island bit, because I felt like that was kind of underutilized.
Yeah. I think the most impressive thing about One Piece for me is, I think for most people really, is that he's been able to maintain a sense of enthusiasm in the story of the characters all these years. Like, there's still the same sense of like energy and childlike love behind what goes on the pages. That's carried the series since its start.
I mean, he knows how to maintain his characters in every aspect. Like, no matter what situation goes on, it's always a question of, what would Luffy do here?
No, it's very evident. It's very evident that he loves his characters very much, and it's always coming up with like really. He always has. I love how he finds ways to bring in characters that help him say something important that he wants to say with the story. Like, there's usually some kind of underlying, like, even like that one arc with like the characters that are kind of like, they're a little on the LGBT stereotype end of things. This was his clumsy way of actually like being pro LGBT. So there was like this undercurrent about like queer people getting acceptance and stuff to that, and like even in that, as problematic as that was, in how he did it, there was like a driving point behind it, and that for me made me like the characters in that segment like a lot more. That's just like one example. It's all throughout the series that he pulls that really nice emotional magic trick. Okay, Google, stop.
I would say probably his magnum opus in terms of the height of his storytelling was just the entirety of the Water 7 storyline, which includes Enies Lobby. Like, going from start to finish, and the emotional just like gut punch you get from the entirety of that arc was just so masterfully executed. It's like, I don't think anybody else could ever pull that off again.
Yeah, there's definitely some high points in the series that to date that are going to be hard to replicate, but I wouldn't put it past him. This is his magnum opus.
I mean, the closest he's gotten again was Whole Cake Island and Sanji's entire backstory, which was really gut-wrenching.
I think it isn't, but I think for him it isn't about just like trying to like just trying to top himself for the sake of topping himself. I think that what makes it keep working is that he's not really trying to chase the same peak again. He's just trying to run with whatever he feels strongly about. and that definitely comes across in the stories. Like that's why Whole Cake Island is one of the best arcs for sure, in spite of it dragging on in some ways.
I mean, the anime side of things, I think it was at that point, or probably during the Wano arc, where they had to start adapting one chapter per episode. That's where like the pacing got screwed up.
In the anime,
that's why everything like
the anime is its own kind of beast.
Yeah, like from what I've heard from people who strictly read the manga, they said the pacing is much better in those later arcs because once they started adapting one episode per, that's where everything kind of like starts falling apart a little bit.
Yeah. No, when I talk about the pacing, I'm mainly talking about the manga. The anime is notorious for being inconsistent in its pacing. It practically wrote the book on glacial pacing and filler over the years.
Although surprisingly, it's still only 10% filler.
Not always. I mean, some episodes are way more filler than others.
No,
but
I mean
not lately though. Like
yeah, no, I mean like if you actually go on Anime List and the calculated number of filler compared to other series, it's still only 10%.
Yeah, Naruto is probably one of the worst offenders on
oh
filler.
God, no, yeah, everything pretty much at the end of pre-time skip was just all filler for like I think 200 episodes. I remember it was some absurd number because like it went from like the end of the Naruto versus Sasuke fight, which is where it was supposed to go to the time skip, and then it just went on this massive tangent for like 100 or 200 episodes before it went to the time skip.
And then
it had nothing to do with canon.
And then Boruto, which is like, hey kids, you want an anime that's nothing but filler?
Yes, this is true.
And I do think that there's a lot of good stuff in Boruto. But...
yeah, I hear a lot of people who read the manga, they said it actually is very well done. It's like a very good extension of the world of Naruto, like into the future. Like they did like a surprisingly good job.
No, it has a lot of good stuff in it. And there's some really good emotional arcs in it. But there is some like C-list episodes that are C-list and D-list episodes that are really like fucking skip those. And
that's what anime filler list is for.
But the stuff where there's But the stuff where there's like actual like plot moving and so on, like there's some really, really good turnarounds that are almost as good as like some of the best moments in classic Naruto. Like there's some really good fight turnarounds and pivotal moments that I thought were really great. I did not continue watching it because at a certain point, like the filler just got to be too much in one of the later seasons, and so I just kind of moseyed on. But it was good. What I did watch had some really good stuff in it. Yeah. I'm learning to appreciate a lot more. Well, I already did have a high level of appreciation for series that know when to end. Like everyone, because of One Piece and because of long running series like Naruto and stuff. Like there's so many like young wannabe manga writers and stuff who come up with a magnum opus that they think is gonna be a story that's gonna persist into perpetuity, which is a kind of a poisonous way to think if you're writing.
In general, like most of what happens with Shonen Jump is like purely to keep things going, to keep the lights on. Like they're genuinely terrified of what they're gonna do once One Piece ends because it's like one of their only consistent long-running series. Like most of the other quote-unquote new long-running series have already ended, and that's like turning into a problem with them because they don't like have anything that can replace the Juggernaut that keeps the lights on.
I think that the solution is going to come from I think the solution for them is going to come from not just keeping things focused, and I think the Jump brand needs to spread out from just being a young boys manga. I think it needs to, and it is like the Jump Online comics. I think are kind of the future. Are kind of like where the future's going a little bit more, because those have
Kaiju #8.
Those have stories that are very, very much not like the kind of stuff you would normally see in Jump. In Shonen Jump.
like I think the best thing that was on the Shonen Jump Plus or just regular online, depending on which part of the world you're in, like Kaiju number 8 has been absolutely fantastic in terms of what it does, because like it's not about like your standard like high schooler. It's just like it's about a 30-year-old who would have all his dreams crushed and he's trying to actually succeed at something.
Anyway, so we're pretty much done for the evening. I'm gonna kick things into my own Discord. Let's see here. I think we might watch well, let's see here. Let me see if I can actually find Armageddon, aka Genma, if we can actually watch it. I doubt it's like available anywhere here in the US. But let's see here. Let me check real quick. So I've got Akira. Like we can look at that. There we go. Okay, I think well, I don't know if we'll be able to watch it tonight, but I do know where to get it. I do have some other things we can put on, though. So we'll discuss that. I'm going to shut down the stream now. Thank you all for coming. We will be depending. So like the way it works with my study sessions in the Discord. I'm not going to commit to doing them, but like if I do them, I will announce beforehand. I'll announce beforehand in the Super Space Cadets tag, which is the opt-in tag right here that you can join, which I ping whenever I'm doing study groups and stuff. This is separate from the regular tag, the regular Space Cadets tag that people get pinged with when I do my streams. But basically, like tomorrow sometime, we're probably going to do some extra study time and some looking at films and studying. I really enjoyed doing that for like a few days this last week, where we did like some artistic deep dives and other things. I'm looking forward to doing that this week some more too, but it depends strictly on my energy level, and if I feel like I needed to take a break from like the sensory overload or something like that, or if I need to like rest my body or something. So depending on things, I will ping beforehand. I'm thinking more than likely we will probably be doing a study session tomorrow, and we'll be able to screen Genma if I can get a hold of it then. But for tonight, I'm gonna find something to put on, and we'll chill and check stuff out. Ooh, let me take a peep here. I'm gonna see if some of the other Katsushiro Toma stuff is available. Let's see here, like Neo Tokyo. There's also Memories. Let's see, Neo Tokyo. I could have sworn that I think Neo Tokyo it's not on Amazon Prime. Damn. But Memories is. I think. No. It's not on Prime Video. God damn it. Okay, Memories. Let's watch. What's some other... okay, there's Steam Boy. What else? What's some other Katsushiro Toma anime projects?
I'm actually going to be heading
Mhm.
out, but I just wanted to say thank you for the class.
Yes.
I learned a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll be vibing some more next Wednesday. I might actually do some more head drawing stuff tomorrow too during the day, but we'll see. I think it'll be probably some Steve Houston stuff if I can. Let's see here. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna take the stream down and then we'll just figure out what we're gonna watch. I've got a bunch of stuff ready to go that we can potentially look at. All right. So, thank you all for coming. Good night.